throw balls and they would sign them. They would say hi, whatever. Well, he didn't want me to go over there and talk to these baseball players.
Wow.
Through the fence, by the way, because as we all know, sex always happens in between a fence.
That's the only way I've ever seen it. That's the only way I've ever seen it, and online or otherwise, right? Welcome back, guys, to Cases and Cocktails. I'm Bryan Eggleston, and this is my beautiful wife, Janice. How are you doing?
Fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. This is episode 45, crushing it today.
They keep letting us do it.
They do. We got a special guest today, too, Claudia King. Claudia, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to be here with you guys.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And to be honest with you, we're sort of in awe of you because the thing about it is you not only are... you also have a podcast, and not only are you an amazing human being, but you're frequently on Court TV, right?
So, I am. I usually do a couple segments a week.
Fantastic. Hey, just give us some grace. Give us a little bit over here. We're going to screw this up a whole lot, or at least I am. My beautiful wife doesn't screw anything up. I'm the one that screws it up consistently.
Our podcast producer is good.
So that's what matters.
Right. That's exactly right. We're going to have fun. Today, you are doing this via remote. We greatly appreciate that. In studio, though, today we are having a special drink, and that drink is?
Mango Tequila Paloma.
Mango Tequila Paloma. Now, Claudia, what is your favorite adult beverage, if I may ask?
I do like tequila.
Yeah, there you go.
So I will drink it straight if it's a good tequila.
Yeah.
But there is nothing wrong with a great Paloma. So I support you guys entirely with that beverage.
I greatly appreciate that, Claudia. We're going to crush this thing real fast.
It's like a breakfast drink.
It looks like a breakfast drink. It's got a lot in it. I'll tell you that.
But there's vitamins and probably minerals. So
I believe there's
it's healthy.
It looks like a lime that might be in there too, a little citrus. All right. That is fantastic. I'm going to enjoy that throughout the day. You good? You like it?
I do. I like it.
Good. Fantastic. Claudia, you, as we mentioned, we're on TV, and that's at Court TV. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you also have your own podcast.
Yes, it's called Strong Enough.
And Strong Enough is a podcast that you do, and it really talks about domestic violence.
Yes. So I talk about different traumas in people's lives, but it was born out of my own domestic violence experience and actually first revealing that I was a survivor on another podcast in October of 2020 for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So this is a cool kind of anniversary for me.
Hey, no, that's fantastic. This would be what, your 5th anniversary now of doing this.
Yep.
How, after you kind of divulged that on that podcast, how long after that did you start your podcast?
So that was in October, and my first episode aired in May of the following year.
Fantastic. Was that obviously you went on the podcast to share your story, and that's a turning point in your life to be able to do that. What was the point where you said, I want to do this more, and then start a podcast?
Yeah, so actually, I went on the podcast not to share my own story, but really to talk about domestic violence in COVID and how it was worse because people were at home and stuck together. Yeah. And it just felt right in the moment that I shared that I was a survivor as well. So the host of that podcast, we became friends, and he kept saying, you need to tell your story. You got to do a podcast. I'll put it out there. I'll get it edited for you, but you got to do this. Right. And you know how it is. You always say, oh, let me just do this first. Let me do that first. Yep. And I had wrist surgery, and I was like, let me just get through that. And then I said, you know what? I'm just doing it. So my first couple episodes, I'm in a cast, got that going on.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was really thanks to Spear Talk podcast and a guy named John who urged me to get out there and start telling my story. So I wanted to give that opportunity to other people as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic.
On this podcast that you're talking about, where you first described and told everyone that you're a survivor as well, it wasn't planned.
It was not planned.
And that podcast producer and the other person on there with you didn't know that that was something that you were going to say?
He had no idea.
How did that feel for you emotionally to get that out there?
It felt really amazing because I was a victim in like 2001 to 2004, and I was able to get out of it. I was actually a police officer at the time, so that's a whole other dynamic to it. But I had never shared with anybody other than close, family, friends knew once I shared with them. So for me, it was kind of like an awakening. It was this weight being shed from me to finally be able to say to the world, this is who I am. This is what happened to me, but that doesn't define me. And I'm better than that. And I'm greater than what occurred.
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
That's fabulous. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you here.
Absolutely. So, as I said, I used to be a police officer, and from about the age of 5, loved true crime. Absolutely loved it. I don't know why. I'm sort of normal otherwise. But I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to solve the crimes. And I did not know at 5 years old that detectives were police officers. I thought they were just people that roamed around in normal clothes and solved crimes.
Yeah, basically like Scooby-Doo, right? Scooby-Doo's in a van, just driving around, solving mysteries. That's fair.
The mystery machine.
Yes,
I was thinking Sherlock Holmes. We're so different.
No, I'm with the dog.
Yeah. The Scooby snacks, the whole thing. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hey, just real fast, Claudia. I have to say this, and this is very tangential, and I apologize for interjecting it, but I have to.
Quick.
I know I have to. So here's the thing: I grew up watching Scooby-Doo too, and that was great. But Scooby-Doo lied to me, Claudia. I'm gonna confess this right now on this.
I love it.
And our producer doesn't know this either. I'm gonna get something off my chest, not nearly as important as yours by any means, but I want to say this: Scooby-Doo lied to me growing up.
Tell me more.
And I'd watch it. I'd watch that. It's a great show. The kids are going around solving crimes and this deal. And they drive all around this great nation. And they got this great dog, by the way, and they never go home. They're just always on the road. And I thought, well, this is great. This is awesome. The thing that really got me, though, was that they lied to me because I grew up thinking I could drive around this nation and also find abandoned places everywhere I go. But instead, there are humans everywhere. There are literally humans everywhere, Josh. Everywhere I go, I've never once driven to a town and been like, look at this abandoned theme park. This is awesome. And then me and only 2 other people, and one of them is the perpetrator. Anyway.
We went to 𝒞𝒶𝓈𝓈, but there were a lot of people there too.
There were a lot of people at 𝒞𝒶𝓈𝓈. That's right. That's exactly right. All right. I apologize. That was just me interrupting and being awkward as normal. So there you go.
No, I love it, and I will get back to my story.
Yes.
But first, I will say there is an abandoned theme park here in Denver. So
I'm coming. We're headed there. I'm going to be there this weekend. I have plans, but I'm
probably make
canceling.
your way here.
We do that. We have a dog. We can get a van. Do you have a van, Josh? I just feel like you have a van. You can get one. That's right. You can get one. You can get one.
He knows people.
Yes, he knows. That's right, Claudia. That's right, Claudia. All right. Thank you. Hey, by the way, thank you for that. Now I've got my future vacation planned already. So
I love it.
Just so you know.
The boys will be excited.
Yeah. It'll be great. It'll be great.
So I too thought that Scooby-Doo was real.
Right.
This is what I was going to be doing.
Right.
Learned probably in my teens, I don't know when, that had to be a cop first, and that was the thing.
Yeah.
And again, I was making excuses. Oh, I'm going to finish college first. I'm going to do this first. And then this is going to show my age. That's okay. 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there at my job watching it. I actually worked for an attorney as a paralegal and was like, I think it's time.
Yeah.
And so I applied and I started the next March as a police officer.
Wow.
That is
And
cool.
absolutely loved it, but was in a relationship with another officer who we ended up living together. And it was very textbook when you look at domestic violence, seemed great. And to the outside world, everybody thought he was a cool guy and super nice. And behind closed doors, he became very controlling initially. He became financially abusive, and that slowly morphed into physical abuse as well.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult because I felt like I should have been better than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I should have, because of my profession,
Right.
I should have seen it coming.
Right.
I now know that things in my past that I had not healed from left me broken. And that broken part of me allowed him to get his way in and kind of hook into my brain and further convince me that I wasn't worth it
Yeah.
and that I wasn't good for anything.
Yeah.
And that's what abusers do. That's what they're so incredibly good at.
Did you have concerns too? Because you're obviously an officer, and I think on I'm sure people have said this. On the outside, why don't you just go tell someone else? One of your other colleagues. But you've got to fear that he's also on the force as well, though, right? I mean, that's right. So you can't just go tell them, right, without it getting back. How did you navigate that dynamic?
I really was in two different worlds,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And, at work, I was at work and I was a police officer and nothing bad was happening in my life. And then home life was different because, as you guys know, police is still male dominated.
Yeah.
And so people are going to believe the guy because women are crazy, as they say, and we're emotional. And I will say the worst thing I did, and I'm willing to talk about it now, and I'm so sorry that I used to do this, but I was very compassionate to victims in the moment. But when I would leave, I would be angry. And I would say to other officers, if we have to go back somewhere twice because she didn't leave, she should be charged with aiding and abetting. And I was serious.
Yeah.
Wow.
I realize now I was mad at myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was taking out my anger on them, luckily not to their faces, but I was really saying that to me, and I was mad at me.
No, I can see that. I can completely see that, and in the space too, while it's happening, right? You're compartmentalizing two different worlds, but they're and you can do that sort of externally. Internally, though, that's where it's bleeding over, right?
Yeah.
That's where the bleed
Correct.
is. Yeah, that's insane.
So what was the turning point? What was the switch that flipped that changed your life?
Yeah, so my parents and he and I went on vacation to spring training in Florida. We went to see the Yankees. My dad is a big Yankees fan.
Okay.
So we went down there and we were there for several days. And I found myself having to go to the bathroom with my mom and use her cell phone to call friends because he would see if I called friends on my cell phone and that would be unacceptable. And then the players would come over after practice and there was a huge, like a 10-foot fence in between. And they would come over though, and you could throw balls and they would sign them. They would say hi, whatever. Well, he didn't want me to go over there and talk to these baseball players.
Wow.
Through the fence, by the way, because as we all know, sex always happens in between a fence.
That's the only way I've ever seen it. Yeah, it's the only way I've ever seen it, and online or otherwise, right, Josh?
Right, and
Why are you watching it online, Brian?
Josh sent me a link, by the way.
See, I knew it.
Yeah.
She could tell.
Right, it's something. What is it? Chain link? What is it? Chain link? No, Josh. So you're in spring training. This is going on. I mean, I know we're making light of it, and I mean this sincerely, Claudia. I'm not making light of what you were enduring at that time. I mean, how did you even manage that? I mean, that's such
In front of your parents,
right.
right?
It's
Your
such
mom
an
and your
absurd
dad.
ask of you. You know what I mean? Like, how do
Yeah.
you navigate looking at your parents and be like, I can't go over there? You know what I mean? Your dad's
Um,
excited to be there. How did you do that?
I don't even know
Yeah.
other than shamefully.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my mom was starting to get it,
Yeah.
and they had seen changes in my personality.
Mm-hmm.
The real kicker though was actually on the way home. So we drove there, drove back, and I had a headache, and I asked if my mom had any Advil. She said yes. She was getting it out for me, and he forbade my mother from giving me Advil.
What was the basis of that?
Control.
Wow.
Pure control.
He's
That's all
still
it
alive.
is.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so that was the beginning of the end. And at that point I started looking. We lived in an apartment, and so I said I wanted to move into a house, rent a house. And so I started looking, and I told him we were moving into the house. I knew this was my escape plan.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so I was looking for a house for me. And so I found a place that I could afford, signed the lease, and at that point let him know that only one of us was moving.
How did he react? I have to ask.
So initially, he was love bombed. You know,
Yeah.
he one day pulled out the engagement ring that he had waiting for me. And he, you know, was so caring and loving, and just kind of the cycle of abuse. But I wasn't falling for it that time. When he realized I wasn't going to fall for it, that's when the behavior switched. He became angry. He became talking about me at work, you know, telling lies about me at work, which, you know, we all knew was going to happen. Threatened more violence, came and took my car away because it was in his name. So he did what we expect abusers to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What gave you the strength to stay away?
I don't know. Honestly,
That's fair.
I just had that switch flip, and I knew I couldn't take it anymore. I just knew that I couldn't. And, you know, there wasn't like a person or a thing. The one thing that did happen though, and this shows how broken I was, I went to a therapist to tell her everything, and for her to say, yes, you should leave.
Wow.
Because I didn't even trust my own opinion at that point. So that might have been part of it, that I kept telling myself, this stranger said to go. I had my parents' support. So like my parents gave me a car when he took my car away. It was just time. You know, I think sometimes if you believe in God, you know, it's a God thing, but something intervenes. And it did for me to say, this is not going to end well, and you've got to go.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a misconception in the public that there has to be this catalyst. There has to be this big event that occurs that then results in you breaking that cycle and leaving. And I think sometimes victims aren't as believed if they just say, I've just had enough. I'm telling you that this happened. This is true. I've just had enough. So I think it's really important. I think it's great that you're telling your story and you're so willing to tell it to everyone, so that people don't feel alone. They understand that that's normal. It's normal. There doesn't have to be a big event where you end up in the hospital and that's the end of it, you know, or the cops come and he finally gets arrested. It's something that you can do internally and you can make a change.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because that is the misconception, that we got to wait for the big thing to happen. We got to wait for the stitches or the broken bones. And I'm here to tell every single victim out there, because you become a survivor once you leave and stay gone.
Right.
So every victim out there, it is always time for you to leave. There are steps you need to take to be safe, because we know that the chances of violence increase exponentially for at least 2 years after a victim leaves. In
Really?
fact, I'll share that a couple months ago, my abuser was stalking my social media for the first time ever, because I can see who sees things on certain platforms because of how they're set up. And I saw his name pop up, and I was like, he always said revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, here he is.
Wow.
And so I blocked him, but it was very scary to see that happen. So I do want victims to know that you do have to put things in place for your safety. Absolutely. Because getting out does not mean the end.
Because you said this happened back in 2000, early 2000s, right? 2000.
I sure did. So it's been 20 years.
I was supposed to say, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm very slow and terrible at math, but I'm trying. It's like 20 years ago, and at some point, this guy's still fixated on you. That's insane.
I know. I
Absolutely
thought it was
insane.
crazy.
Can I ask? I appreciate you sharing that. How did that make you feel right in that moment when you saw his name 20 years later? Right, you see that name. I mean, what is that? What's going on in your head right then?
It was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. Even after all the healing that I've done and the work that I've done for myself, it was very scary. And I probably went white, and I'm pretty pale, so whiter than I am now. And I did, I waited a few minutes, and I am married now. I told my husband, I was like, you're not going to believe what just happened. And we have a nickname for this person. So I'm going to say his nickname. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I said, 2 Buckets is stalking my social media.
2 buckets.
And
Okay.
I can tell you the story behind it if you want.
I have to know.
And he was like, are you serious? And he was like, block him immediately. Like, don't let this happen. But it was very scary. And it kind of sat with me for a few days, because I was thinking that was like his catchphrase about revenge.
Right.
And I'm like, what better cold is there than 20 plus years later?
20 years later, out of the blue. I want to hear the story about the nickname, but before I get there, just real fast. Your husband, obviously, great support for you in doing this and that. Knowing that you had that, obviously you feel more comfortable at this point, right? You can handle that better, right? And particularly, there's a duration of time, one, in the work that you've done on yourself. And then 3, you've got that support system, your husband, and obviously, other people that are part of your support system. Was your husband, was he shocked?
He was shocked,
Yeah.
and he knows 2 Buckets.
Yeah.
So he was also a police officer. That's where we met. So he knew him. He was actually surprised, when I shared with him what had happened. He was like, wow, I thought he was dumb, but I never thought that
I didn't
of
think
him.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like that. All right, tell us the story of the nickname.
Okay, so he is very skinny, or he was at the time. He was a very skinny guy, but he would walk like with his arms like popped out like that, I guess to make himself look bigger.
Okay.
And so it looked like he was carrying buckets in his arms. So 2 buckets.
I can see it. That's great.
I love it. I think it's hilarious. That's hilarious. I love that. Absolutely love that. Now you've taken sort of your experience, and you've created that the space on your podcast to kind of talk about not only domestic violence, but as you said, other traumas as well. How has that helped you?
To be honest, it's hard, because I do sometimes deal with vicarious trauma, because hearing other people's tough stories can be hard.
Yeah.
So I have to factor that in. But it does help me, because what we focus on the podcast isn't necessarily the trauma. Like, we don't go into excruciating minutia about what happened. We go into excruciating minutia about how they got through it. Because what I want to happen is for that one listener or viewer out there to watch each episode and see that person talking and say, I thought nobody else was like me, but that person is. And if they got through it, I can get through it too.
Yeah.
And that is the reason behind it. And that's why we focus more on the good versus the bad, because we all know the traumas.
Yeah.
we want to hear about the good things that happened as well. And I think that's where people can get that hope.
Yeah.
I think it's important too. I like that you're so willing to share the obstacles that you're still enduring as a result of this, because I think it gives people realistic expectations, right? Because what you don't want is for someone to just hear the great stuff about it, about how I left and things are great and I'm a survivor, and that's all good and well, but we all know that there's stuff underlying and there's still stuff that could occur. So you don't want someone to leave and start being a survivor and then end up going back, right?
Right.
Because they encountered some type of a hurdle. So I think it's really great that you're such an open book about it. I think it makes such a difference for people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and that is my hope.
On your podcast, tell me, what has been your favorite guest, your favorite episode?
Oh, that's tough.
I know
Okay.
there's a lot.
It's like
I know,
saying your favorite kid in
Well,
front of you.
no,
Can't-
there's a lot.
We all know we have one, but you can't.
And you've told so many great different stories on there, right? And people that have gone through it and done the work, and that, and
Yes.
and they're all going to be great. They're not all going to be great. They're all going to be memorable, right? Because of what that person endured, and like you said, you kind of have that vicarious trauma. You kind of get to almost see that and want that for them. You want the resolution, right, for them. But is there one that sticks out?
There is a recent one where a girl she went to college. She was feeling very down and depressed because college wasn't what she thought it would be.
Yeah.
She felt very isolated and alone. And she decided that she didn't need to be here anymore and was about to attempt suicide. And right at that moment, a friend of hers called her and stopped her from doing that.
Wow.
And in that moment, she thought, maybe there is more to this. Maybe there's more to life, and I am meant to be here. And in that moment, she turned her life around. She's now in her late 20s, I believe, late 20s, early 30s. And now she speaks about suicide in an attempt to help people understand some of the factors that can contribute to it when everything seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
And she helps other people not get to the point where she was, where if they don't have that angel that flies in and makes that phone call, that they'll be okay too.
Wow.
So I think that one recently was just a really fantastic story, because it was somebody that you wouldn't expect to have that trauma. And then even at such a young age, she was able to get through it and is so dedicated to helping other people.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
I got goosebumps.
Did her friend know that she was helping at the time?
No, not at the time.
That's amazing. That's absolutely
It just,
amazing.
again, it was that God moment,
Yeah.
or whatever, if you believe in, I don't know, fairies floating around or
No,
whatever,
yeah,
but
no,
it was that.
It's a beautiful space where that someone comes in and helps like that, and then I'm thrilled to hear that she's working so diligently to help others. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
It is. It's amazing.
I want to ask real fast. You were an officer. You were dating an officer. You're now married to an officer. Tell me, how has all of this changed your perspective, sort of in law enforcement and that sort of stuff in that community?
Yeah, it's made it difficult, because I was one of those people that felt like, police officers are the ultimate in trust. They're here to protect us. And what it taught me was that there are bad people in every profession, but not all of them. Because
Right,
I think,
right.
especially with police, they get vilified.
Right.
When something goes wrong and one person does something that they shouldn't, suddenly the whole profession is bad.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. There are bad apples in every bunch.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, today, the job is much different than it was. I actually went back to policing in 2017
Okay.
for a brief time, and it's changed a lot. I wouldn't want to do it now.
Yeah.
And so the caliber of people who are coming in aren't the same as what it used to be. And so I think there are going to be some challenges going forward.
Yeah.
But I think it's most important to remember that there are bad people in every job.
Yeah.
But it's not the job. It's
Yeah.
the people.
No, we see that. We see it all the time in what we do as lawyers. We often talk to clients about when we're going to court. And, you know, a judge sits on the bench and judges people. That's literally it's in their name. But, you know, there's always going to be one person mad at the judge at minimum. And, you know, or at least
If
this,
it's a good judge, everyone's
right,
mad.
right. I
in
was
my
going to say,
opinion.
you know, right,
Right.
And so, but, you know, we talk oftentimes too, though, about, you know, that judge is a human being, just like an officer, right? And people expect officers to show up, do the right thing, you know, be able to actually do the right thing, not just do it, but actually like show up, know what the right thing is to do, and then do it. And they think the judge is going to do the things that we're going to get justice, right? It's going to be fair. This person's going to listen to my story, and they have to hear the injustice that's going on. And what we talk to clients oftentimes about, and it seems sort of silly, but it's true, is, hey, look, that judge just heard a case before yours where a kid was getting molested, or the kid was getting beat, or the wife was getting abused, right? Or a terrible story about where someone passed away suddenly, right? Now we're trying to, you know, other parents or other family members are fighting over the kid. And not to minimize my client's position, but oftentimes you don't know what that judge has heard. You also don't know what that judge has endured in the morning, right? Like at home, right? We one of our local judges, we found out after the fact, but he had been living basically with a sheriff posted outside his home and escorting him to and from the courthouse and everything, him and his family, for months, because there was an active plot to kill him. Right.
Wow.
But we're rolling into his courtroom and he's all pissed off, right? You know, just because we're there. And admittedly, I'd probably be pissed off too if I was living that way, right? So, you know, but you don't know that, right? And so it's the same kind of concept, right? When the police show up, you expect them to act a certain way, do something.
It's like a fairy tale expectation, right? That you expect officers or judges to know what the truth is,
Right.
to just know what's happened and to just believe the right person. And unfortunately, that's just not how it works. So I appreciate you making it a point to say that, you know, just because this happened and this person was an officer doesn't mean all officers are this way. It sounds like it makes sense, but I think that people run with it too often and just say that the whole group is bad, like you said.
Yes. And I will point out, he got fired shortly after, so he was not an officer much longer. So nobody has to worry about him roaming around out there anyway.
Can I
carrying
ask,
a badge?
Can I ask? So I'm just going to kind of build on that. You talked about that this happened. Your family, your parents that helped you at the time with the car and that sort of stuff. And I know that he kind of ran his mouth about you at work and in the force. But did that story ever come out? What he sort of inflicted upon you and what you survived, did that ever come out to your fellow colleagues and that sort of stuff? Other than your husband, obviously, that you.
Not until 2020. And I had several of my friends that I'm still friends with who were officers reach out and say, I'm so sorry, I never knew. I never suspected. And I appreciate that, but it's not their fault.
No.
You know, because how could you know?
Yeah.
But no, I stayed sealed until just a few years ago. And since then, I have been more open about it and talking about exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been really surprised. But I've been honored at the support that I've gotten this many years later.
Yeah.
That's amazing. For people that are out there watching that want to find some of your resources, your website, your podcast, how would they do that?
Yeah, so the podcast is Strong Enough, and it is available everywhere. So anywhere that you find your favorite podcast, go there. Also available on YouTube. It's at Strong Enough Podcast. You can also find any information on me and some of the court TV stuff on all social media. It's at Real Claudia King, and my website is claudiamking.com.
You know, you've been on Court TV, and you go on as an expert, right? You go on as an expert regarding domestic violence. Tell me, how did you get started in that?
Yeah. So it's been a year and a half now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I had a friend who would do spots on Court TV. He also used to be in law enforcement. And one day I was watching him, took some screenshots, sent them to him. And I was like, I want to be like you one day. And he said, well, you'd be great at this. Send me your resume and like, I'll get it to the producers. So then I have to Google what is a TV resume because I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I'm just like, I don't know.
Right, yeah.
So I Google and I get that done and I send it over to him. And it was probably, I heard from them initially saying, we got this. And then it was maybe a month or 6 weeks later, they reached out and booked me on like a 15-minute block.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I guess I said good things and it has increased. So now I'm on every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. And then I'm currently also doing Friday nights on the 8 p.m. slot.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, it was the support of a friend who thought I would be good at it. And I'm here to say I am good at it because I am now capable of saying good things about myself.
Good for you.
Fantastic.
That's fabulous.
That is fantastic. That's a big deal. Tell me, when you're on Court TV, we're talking about domestic violence, that sort of stuff. And as an expert, tell us, and it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Tell us, what do we typically see? What are the typical signs there of domestic violence?
You will a lot of times see a change in personality. That will be the first thing. You'll start to see isolation in people. Friends or family won't hear from this person as much, or they'll be busy. Oh, I can't come over today. I'm really busy with XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
If it's really bad, they might start showing up with unexplained bruises and saying, oh, I fell. I don't know why hitting a doorknob is always the story that people choose because that's like physically impossible, I feel like, but it's always the go-to that I fell and hit a doorknob.
Right.
So if you hear that, you should probably be suspicious. But I think something that other people will recognize is the personality change and the isolation. Those are the primary things that you'll see.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, where I think it's a gradual change, right? Like you said, they kind of start not showing up. And your parents, when this was going through, you kind of mentioned they were seeing those signs, but they still hadn't put that together. Is that right?
Correct. I think I was fairly good at hiding it. I don't know. They might say differently.
Right.
But we lived about an hour apart and I was really busy because, I was 4 days on, 4 days off. The 4 days on, you're working 11, 12-hour shifts. So I was busy, but I'll have to ask them and see, was I doing as good a job as I thought I was kind of hiding it? But they definitely saw that personality change. They said I was a shell of myself.
Wow. Did you, when you were going through this and even as an expert, are there certain things that, that you kind of expect to see from perpetrators of domestic violence, certain behaviors or actions?
Sometimes, but I think that is what's so scary is because you could line up a row of men and women, in front of us and say, find the abuser, and we would all struggle to do that.
Right.
So it's very difficult. Some of the things, though, controlling behavior. So if you see someone that gets upset at little things, like maybe they're in a restaurant and the waiter forgets to bring something or brings the wrong thing, maybe they overreact to something like that. That might be a clue.
Right.
They might just be a mean guy or a mean girl. But I think that controlling behavior is probably the only thing that you might be able to pick up on. And that's the scary part is they're walking among us if you look at the number of people that are being abused in this country and around the world, there's a lot of abusers walking out there that we don't see.
Yeah. I did earlier too. Did I hear you say that he started sort of with financial abuse?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what it typically is that they will control all the money, because if they have to dole out the money to you, then they control how much you're getting, what you can spend, and that you have no money to leave, essentially.
Right.
For us, it was slightly different. Now, we were poor because police officers did not make a lot of money back then in North Carolina. They probably still don't. So I was responsible for paying the rent, and he was responsible for making the car payment. The car payment went to his step parents. So I did not find out until later that he never paid them a dime.
Wow.
So I'm paying all of our rent on my salary and, food, whatever else, and he's not paying for anything. Meanwhile, he's over at the cigar shop, I have since learned, spending all kinds of money there, and he would ask the owner of the shop to hold his purchases there for him so I wouldn't know about them.
Wow. And you had no idea, at the time, you had no idea that was going on.
No, I mean, I knew he went there,
Yeah.
and I knew he smoked cigars,
Yeah.
but I had no idea what he was spending, and I had no idea that my car payment had never been paid a cent. And that was so embarrassing to me, to find that out, because I'm sure he made up some story to them that I wasn't doing it, and that wasn't the case. So it was kind of double duty. It was financial abuse, but it was also another way that he could attack my character with another set of people.
Yeah. On your podcast, when you've got guests come on and that sort of stuff, and they're telling their story, you said you have that vicarious sort of trauma. Do you often see yourself in your guests?
Luckily, I don't.
Good.
Maybe occasional, if they say this happened and I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Like, that happened to me.
Yeah.
It's more just kind of absorbing that trauma in general and just hearing about it. So I think it's really important, and probably for you guys too, because you probably deal with a lot of that yourselves. It's important to have really good self-care routines built in so that you don't let those things take over, because you have to deal with it.
Oh yeah. It's, we hear a lot of trauma, and everyone on our team, we talk to our team all the time about, when people come to us, they're in the worst spots, particularly in their life. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those situations where we take a lot of that emotion, and we have to give ourselves and give each other sort of grace inside this, right? To deal with this, right? You get off the phone and you've been on the phone for 2 hours with someone who's, basically unloading all of their emotional, distress and trauma. And then you've got someone that picks the phone up and calls you next, and, they wonder why you're not happy or excited to be on to be dealing with it.
We have to take care of ourselves so we can continue to help taking care of others, right? We don't want to have empathy fatigue.
Right. One question real quick. Moving forward, what is the plan for Claudia King?
That's a great question. I definitely will continue the podcast. I think it's so important to continue sharing people's stories and sharing their healing path. I have just written a trauma healing workbook, so it has not released yet. I'm getting ready to, but it's basically a workbook for any type of trauma that somebody has been through and just hasn't found that path of healing. It is some active steps that they can take, some activities that they have to put their efforts and their time into to do, that will help them reach a place where at the very end, they can write that letter to the person that committed the trauma and forgive that person, and then hopefully let it go and move forward.
Yeah.
So that will be coming out soon.
That's awesome.
More Court TV. Yeah, more Court TV as well.
Very cool. Please let us know when that workbook gets released.
Yeah.
I definitely will.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Strong Enough is the podcast, and you can check out Claudia King at ClaudiaMKing.com. And
Got it.
obviously on Tuesdays and Fridays on Tuesdays and Fridays on Court TV, right?
You got it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And guys, at this time, that's going to be the episode 45 with Claudia King. We look forward to seeing you next week for our next episode.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next Friday.